Teach me about the Great Lakes. Teach me about the Great Lakes. Welcome back to Teach Me About the Great Lakes, a twice-monthly podcast in which I, a Great Lakes novice, ask people who are smarter and harder working than I am to teach me all about the Great Lakes. My name is Stuart Carlton, and I work with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, and right now is when I normally put in some sort of obnoxious thing about something I do know, but I don't know a lot about the Great Lakes, but we do not have time for that tonight. Whereby tonight I mean this morning, because it is the special time of year, everybody's favorite time of year. It is time for the 2022 Lakies. That's right, quite possibly not the least prestigious Great Lakes-related award ceremony that there is, podcast division. And I'm excited to be joined on the red carpet. I'm walking down the red carpet right now. I happen to be joined on the red carpet by Carolyn, Foley, and Hope Charters. Carolyn, in person, how are things for you?
I am doing well, thank you. And my shoes are quiet because I'm wearing running shoes.
That's right. She's wearing running shoes. I am wearing high heels. Hope Charters, what's your footwear sitch?
I'm going to say that I'm wearing house slippers because they're the comfiest.
I know. I need a pair of house slippers. Every year I tell myself I'm going to get those LL Bean ones. This is not a recommendation. But then I look and they're like $90. I'm like, yeah. And then every year I'm like, I should have got these.
Go secondhand. Be sustainable.
It's a solid point. Second foot in this case. So, that aside, this is the Lakies Award. I want to give a little bit of background on this before we get into it. So, the reason that we have the Lakies is kind of two or threefold. The first fold is because I thought of the name Lakies, in all honesty, is what it was. And I was like, there's got to be some Lakies. If there's going to be Lakies, might as well be our Lakies. So, that was reason number one. Reason number two is we learn about all this cool stuff, but that's only some of the cool stuff that's out there in terms of Great Lakes science, outreach, communication, donuts, of course, sandwiches or whatever. And so we really want to celebrate that. And then kind of the third fold in this threefold reason, a tripartite set of reasons, I suppose, is that award ceremonies are kind of fundamentally silly. And in that they're a little bit arbitrary, a little bit random. There's often behind-the-scenes politicking going on. And so we thought it would be fun to sort of just, do that live on air so that people can hear that. And so
we
have decided this.
We have decided that. And so so we are going to present the Lakies to you. Now, big disappointment. We don't have any special Lakies music ready. So I guess...
You have to do the hand moments with it too. Not quite jazz hands, not quite jazz fingers, but just imagine that.
That's right.
Okay. So as a reminder, we've been asking listeners over the last several weeks or months to nominate different work for the Lakies. And so the listeners have chimed in, and we've brought some of our own things to the table as well. And so we're going to go category by category, looking at the different nominees, talking about some of them, and we will choose generally one or two runners-up, and we will choose a Lakey Award winner. And as a reminder, it's just something we think is notable. We are not, of course, the arbiters of quality, although we secretly think we are. And so it's just something wonderful. And then we're going to send them this year. We got certificates. As soon as I make certificates, we've got swag as soon as we get more swag printed. And we'll be sending all that surely sometime in the next 8 months to the Lakey Award winners. All right, first category. The first Lakies category is Great Lakes News Event of the Year. There's a lot of news in the Great Lakes. So what is the biggest news event in the year? And I've got a couple from the audience. The audience voted for the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. 50th anniversary. That's big news, isn't it, Carolyn?
Yes, it absolutely is. It's extremely important.
So you're a water quality agreement fan. You stand for the water quality agreement. What is so important about this?
I mean, I think that what's really incredible about it is that, people sometimes forget that the Great Lakes are an international location. There are 2 countries that are interested in it. And so the fact that they could come together 50 years ago and make some plans to try to improve the waterways for everyone who lives around them with some solid movements. And there has been so much work since then. So it's pretty cool. Kind of amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that international thing is important. And we did speak in our last episode with Chris Korleski, the director of Glenpoe, about the water quality agreement. And it was a nice conversation. And another point he meant is that, part of people who are often left out intentionally or otherwise are the tribal organizations too. And that's an important part of the...
That's a fair point.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, great. That was one. Another audience nomination is Mike Shorman.
Ooh, I love this nomination. So he is the first disabled man to cross all the Great Lakes on a paddleboard this summer. And apparently there's going to be a documentary about it coming out next year.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. And he was diagnosed with Ramsay Hunt syndrome. And paddleboarding was part of his sort of return to physical and mental wellness. So I think that, to me, is really great because it reminds me of how a resource like the lakes can be whole person wellness, right? I think is part of the deal there. Those are two great audience nominations. My nomination that I'd like to bring is the Enbridge Line 5. It's just something new, right? Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement is very big, but it's 50 years old, still very important. But it's something that's kind of ongoing, a live issue right now, is the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline. And so if you don't know what that is, that's an oil pipeline from Wisconsin to Ontario. It was built in 1953, supposed to last about 50 years, but it's actually still in use. And so in the last year, Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, and the DNR, they revoked the easement so that the pipeline would have to get shut down, but the pipeline's still operating as this works its way through court. And it's a fairly contentious issue. It's a binational complex Great Lakes story. The Canadian government has filed briefs favoring keeping the pipeline open. The U.S. government is preparing an environmental impact statement. But it's a real working pipeline. It's spilled, like 1 million plus gallons of oil in the Great Lakes over the last 50 years.
Right. But it's also important for, lots of economics and stuff like that. Like a whole bunch of Ontario strongly relies on that pipeline, which is why it's such a contentious issue.
And in that way, I think it's kind of representative of a lot of what the Great Lakes is, right? Is how do we balance that stuff? And that's why I think that's a very worthy nominee as well.
Yep. So, I am very bad at making decisions, but this is one of the categories I actually felt pretty strongly about, that the nomination about Mike Shorman being a disabled person, cross all the Great Lakes on a paddleboard, that to me is just, it's a story, it's a news story, but it signifies lakes being accessible to all sorts of different types of people, and that people could go around, and just... I was getting that story sent to me by multiple family members and things like that. Like, hey, did you see this? So it really inspires just the love of the lakes, right?
I think that my vote is for the Mike Shorman story also. I am also disabled. I have type 1 diabetes. And so I just really connected with this on a human level. It just really pulled on my emotions. And so I think that's why I just love this story.
Well, it sounds like I'm going to be outvoted 2-1. So the winner of the Great Lakes News Event of the Year is the Terry Fox of the Great Lakes himself, Mike Shorman. So congrats to Mike. And we will have a runner-up. Runner-up will be Enbridge Line 5. Hopefully someone's making a note of this. Okay, moving on. Category 2, the Great Lakes Research Finding of the Year. And so a lot of good things were nominated for this. Carolyn, did you have one that you wanted to call out?
Sure. So there was an article that was sent in by Tamana Yasmin, who is a PhD candidate and has an article in Nature looking at kind of how sea lamprey, the thing about sea lamprey is that people, for as long as they've been around and for as much of people have been concerned about their effects on the Great Lakes, people still don't really know necessarily all that much. So any additional information, because there are these kind of key species in the Great Lakes that kind of drive so many different things that happen, and sea lamprey is absolutely one of those. So any additional information about that, I think, is pretty awesome.
I like the nomination of Miriam Diamond from the Department of Earth Sciences at the University of Toronto. She published an article about children's school uniforms as a source of PFAS, and wastewater systems are not designed to filter out PFAS, so these chemicals will eventually end up in the Great Lakes as its sources are widespread. And I think that really shows how everything that we do in our lives can lead to harming the environment, and so we have to think even about what clothes we wear.
And that's, what they call them so-called forever chemicals, right? And so that is kind of a critical Great Lakes everywhere issue. And seeing the fact that it's in school uniforms, I thought that was really, really striking as well. My nomination is actually not one from the audience. It's a paper written by I apologize on the name here, but it's a paper called 6 Decades of Lake Ontario Ecological History According to Benthos, and it was published by Lyubov Burlakova and many other co-authors in the Journal of Great Lakes Research, including Ashley Elgin, who we had on talking about that in other papers. And what I like about this one is they look at 50 plus years of data in Lake Ontario, and you can see how the ecosystem is sort of transformed over those times, like with the introduction of dreissenids, which are the mussels, and then how like the zooplankton have almost disappeared, other mollusks have greatly declined, and things like that. And what I like about this is it's the importance of long-term data sets and government research programs and stuff like that. Because if this stuff isn't being collected over time, it doesn't exist. You can't go back and get 25-year-old data or 50-year-old data. And so that to me is something that's really important part of the Great Lakes story and an important part of what we talked about. And so then, so those are 3 great things. We got to choose, right? Only one can win a Lakey. So what I would say is, Hope, I agree about the PFAS stuff, but I think that might come up in just a couple of minutes. So if we can hold the PFAS story, I think maybe one of these other papers, does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay. So Carolyn, what are you thinking? We got Lake Ontario history, 50 years. Lake Ontario, which touches Canada.
A portion of it is in Canada, yeah. So that team does a lot of incredible work with a lot of data sets and things like that. So again, I'm very bad at. I do want to give a shout out to a couple of other nominees too. Maybe we'll put the links to them in the show notes.
Of course we will.
That there's a couple of other pretty awesome publications that have come out. But yeah, I'm totally fine with the Lakey going to the team from Buffalo State.
Fantastic. In that case, we will have...
led by Buffalo State, my mistake.
Yeah, there's a very broad team. So the runner-up will be...
Yasmin, led by PhD candidate Tamana Yasmin, about sea lamprey.
Yeah, very cool. And that was the one that was in a Nature publication too, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
I was
pretty
a
big
PhD
deal.
candidate once. Nature didn't hear my work, shall we say. They
Yep.
still don't.
No.
Great, but the Lakey, you know what, I'm not going to do a drum roll every time because that would be stupid. But the Lakey goes to, in this case, 6 decades of Lake Ontario ecological history according to Benthos. And congrats to all. Woo! There was Katie O'Reilly going, woo. All right. Next up now is where it starts to get contentious. Now we're really elbow deep into the Lakeys. Great Lakes Animal of the Year. Great Lakes Animal of the Year. Hope.
Cisco. Sorry. I jumped in. Cisco.
Cisco. So tell me about Cisco. I don't even know what Cisco is. I'm thinking like wireless routers or food, like institutional food. Tell me about the fish called the Cisco and why isn't it called the Fishco?
I cannot answer that particular question, but Cisco are a fish that historically were present in the Great Lakes, and they are extremely important to Indigenous people around the Great Lakes. They were an important part of the food web, and they sort of tanked for a while, and there are efforts to sort of reintroduce them. They're just kind of like, I'm not a fish person, and I think Cisco are kind of cool. So, but yeah, no, they are, I don't know, they're important. Also, there's this thing called Cisco Inferno.
Cisco Inferno.
If you look hashtag Cisco Inferno on social media, it's like just tons of people who are doing cool research, gathering different stuff.
Are people dancing with their Cisco?
I don't know. Hey, Cisco Inferno people, can you like tweet at Teach Great Lakes? And well, as long as we're still on there, potentially also connect with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant other ways. But yeah, and tell us if you dance.
Cisco's not the only inferno going on right now on social media.
So, all right. What's your vote, Hope?
I love Goby Dogs. I will always be a fan of Goby Dogs. Whoever nominated that, thank you.
Hard to argue with the Goby Dog, I'll be honest. My vote is actually, it's going to be a past Lakey winner. So last year, the Lakey's Animal of the Year was the piping plover, as we like to think of them, the cotton balls with toothpick legs. This year, Monty, maybe the most famous piping plover in the world, not necessarily a large group to choose from, especially in the Great Lakes. But Monty died, and we've had a number of episodes on Monty, and Rose has gone missing. We're not sure what the status with her is. And
grief is the status.
Grief is the status, yeah. She might have died of a broken heart.
Oh my God.
Happy holidays.
So it would be weird after 2 years of Lakeys to already have a repeat winner. But if we are going to have a repeat winner, I think it should be Monty and Rose, the specific to piping plovers rather than the general concept of piping plovers that won Animal of the Year last year.
Do people still say pour one out for my homies?
Don't know.
By the time
I am so out of touch with
I think
cool
the thing
things.
is, I've heard that expression, and so since I have heard it, probably not. Usually, it's dead then. They poured one out for that when they heard me saying it. But yes, we should at least pour one out for Hope's homies,
Yep.
Monty and maybe Rose.
So I've already expressed my strong opinion for Cisco, but I also defer to either of you, whatever y'all think.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll go with Piping Plovers.
Monty and
RIP.
Rose.
Yeah, just specifically Monty and Rose.
We can't nominate the podcast network for a Lakey and win. So.
All right, Monty and Rose.
Monty and Rose, Lakey winner, runner-up Cisco. If they want to win, they could change their name to Fishco. Just pointing that out. Okay, next, the Great Lakes non-animal of the year. Great Lakes non-animal of the year. And this is a pretty broad category since it potentially encompasses everything that is not an animal.
So I want to disqualify one of the nominations.
I have a feeling it's the one I'm about to nominate.
Someone said Dr. Fish. Dr. Fish is an animal.
That was the one that I wanted
that one is
to vote
disqualified.
for.
Somebody went in. I know exactly who did this. I won't call them out on the podcast, but I have a feeling that they've appeared on 2 episodes around Halloween. Actually, it might not have been them. But regardless, someone went in and nominated Titus for every category, which is fine. That one can be
I
disqualified.
really hope it was Titus.
But I'm going to disqualify for non-animal of the year because humans are animals. All right, Hope, who's your nominee for this non-animal?
I just really like the description on this one. The majestic white pine.
Majestic white pine.
Extremely important plant, yes.
I would assume
Species
so.
tree.
I don't know a ton about white pine. It's not a Christmas tree. That's what I know about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, and I apologize whoever nominated if I'm incorrect, but I'm pretty sure they were historically fairly important in like dune ecology and stuff, and like shoreline along, and so people have been similar to the Cisco. They have potentially been trying to reintroduce them. Also, they're beautiful. All right.
Fantastic. And my nomination is the sailing vessel Inland Seas, a 77-foot tall ship schooner that acts as an educational platform to connect people around the Great Lakes with water. And this is part of the ship school. Inland Seas is this organization, and we feature them on our social media as a Lakey nominee for actually in a different category. But I think that ship itself, because I look at this 77-foot tall schooner and I think to myself, I would like to have a 77-foot tall schooner for Illinois Indiana Sea Grant or Goby Dog Media or whatever, the SV Spillhouse, whatever. And so I see that, I'm like, boy, that is a very solid non-animal of the year nominee.
Yeah, and I mean the programming that they're doing is really, really awesome. So I will throw in the nomination because this cracked me up. Coontail, that's an aquatic macrophyte, so a plant, and the description is, it's so soft and fun to snorkel through. My recollection of coontail when sampling wetlands was that it was really annoying if you had long hair because it potentially got stuck in your hair, but perhaps it is fun to snorkel through. But yeah, I'm going to mention that one, though I think my vote goes toward the inland seas.
So when I read that nomination, I actually thought they were talking about a raccoon's tail.
Well, it kind of looks that way. It's like kind of bushy. So I could see whoever says it's fun, but it also can kind of get stuck. But maybe it's anyway. I won't go on about macrophytes. So
Thank you for that.
We don't want to hear it.
No, that's there's your Great Lakes fact of the year. All right, fantastic. Well, in that case, I think we've got 2 votes for it, and so the Great Lakes non-animal of the year is going to be the sailing vessel Inland Seas. So congrats to them. Woo! I keep playing Katie O'Reilly, going woo after every one of these. Fantastic. All right. The intensity continues. So this one is tough because we haven't traveled much, but this might be the most important among the most important categories, and that is Great Lakes Sandwich of the Year, or as Craig calls it, Sando of the Year. Great Lakes Sando of the Year. And so we got a lot of good audience votes. Carolyn, is there a sandwich that you would like to feature?
Absolutely. The falafel pita. There's a lovely, lovely description. Vegetarian, halal, inexpensive, portable, hearty, and tasty, beloved the world over and available in most Great Lakes cities. It can be enjoyed by most in the Great Lakes watershed, pays homage to immigrants who settle in the Great Lakes cities for economic opportunity, and it connects us to the rest of the world. It's also flippin' delicious, so yeah, very strong yes for falafel for me.
I agree. This is a case where a strong nomination really helped, right?
But also, like the sandwich itself.
The sandwich
is,
yes. My one concern about
objectively
this.
delicious.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. My concern is that if you wanted to make sort of if you could really make this a lot better by making a falafel pasty. Like, think about that. And then,
Interesting.
Yeah, it would really be multicultural in that way, and it would be much more Great Lakes oriented because this is a sandwich that doesn't exist outside of the Great Lakes, right? And so I think that it could be improved upon.
I'm pretty sure there are people who create pasties that have like chickpea type.
But that's not what's nominated.
I
Here's the
understand,
thing.
but
Okay.
you know what? I'm still going to go for falafels. Bail me out.
My vote is obviously, again, going to go for Gobi Dogs. Also, can I just say that I'm really glad that nobody nominated Titus for this one?
Oh, yeah, that would be a little bit awkward.
Yeah, falafel pita. I mean, obviously, gobi dog. Question is that a sandwich? But that's a debate from several years ago, whether or not that would be a sandwich.
Yeah, I was just joking. I definitely go with the falafel pita.
All right. Well, it sounds like falafel pita is going to take it. I'm going to go runner up the whitefish sandwich from the
Les
Les
Chenaux.
Chenaux.
culinary school.
Obviously, Stuart does not know French or cannot read it at all.
Stuart took French from first grade through college
Well, why did you pause
Yeah,
when you
why
were
did you pause
reading
on
it?
Les Chenaux then?
because I took Cajun French. All right. Runner up there in the falafel pita. It's going to be hard to send a certificate to a falafel pita, but we'll do it.
So actually, just encourage everybody to go out. If you've never tried one before, go try one.
Yeah, falafel's really good.
Really awesome.
Yeah.
So.
It's a chick. I mean, you probably had it. Our audience is, but if you haven't, it's just it's a chickpea hush
No.
puppy.
Let them go learn.
Let them go learn. That
Yeah,
it's
let it be a
chickpea hush
surprise.
puppy.
Don't even tell them what it is.
Donut.
Yeah. Oh, this one is good. This one is good. We had a couple audience votes that I think are worth calling out before my nomination. The pumpkin donut at Jenny's Farm Stand in Dexter, Michigan. I love the specificity of this nomination. And second of all, it's seasonal and a farm stand, right? I mean, this is so great. So one great thing about this area compared to the South is where I'm from is we have a fall. And this fall was amazing this year, incidentally. And so when you think about it being decorative gourd season, my friends, that's a lot more meaningful here than it is elsewhere. And so when I see that, it's really, really nice.
I honestly was also going to vote for. I mean, I wanted to expand it past the pumpkin donuts at Jenny's Farm Stand in Dexter, Michigan to cider and pumpkin donuts around the Great Lakes Basin because they are,
Tasty. I've never had one. Now you guys are like...
For real?
Yeah.
Oh
we
my
made 'em this year.
goodness. They are, yeah. And like,
That
they're
sounds
just
delicious.
nice. Yeah. So,
All right, writing that on my wish list for Craig to make me pumpkin donuts.
or next fall, head up the side of Lake Michigan there and stop somewhere. Yeah. All right. Perfect.
I think my vote is for the vegan cake donut because I've been trying to eat more vegan stuff. Not because I am vegan, but just to try it out and see how it tastes.
Yeah, sure.
Be a little healthier. So
Your climate thanks you.
that is from Cafe Donuts on Monroe Street in Toledo.
What I like about that is a number of the guests that we've had on who have voted for donut have been vegan and said vegan donut somewhere. So I think it's a big refuge for people who otherwise sometimes would have trouble finding things to eat, right? Especially, so that's really great. And they sort of just glaze over the yeast thing. But that's fine. And
Well, no, maybe
They
use
literally glaze over the yeast thing.
all right. Well, y'all can pick what you want, but I do have a vote that I want to put out there, and that is the Long John or Cream Stick, as our friend Jay calls it, from Benison's in Evanston, Illinois. This is a donut that was so good it got banned from Teach Me About the Great Lakes, and so it got redacted anyway from Teach Me About the Great Lakes, and so I want to call out Benison's Cream Stick.
Yep.
It could be recommended, is all I'm saying.
Sounds good.
I think my official vote is going to go for the pumpkin donut because now I really, really want to try one.
Mm-hmm. Yep, pumpkin donuts.
Yeah,
all
pumpkin and cider donuts. We'll say, if we can combine those two, I'm on board with that. If it's just pumpkin, I'm going to push
pumpkin
back.
and cider, but I think the official certificate should go to Jenny's Farm Stand in
Yep.
Dexter, Michigan.
And the swag as soon as we get that printed.
Cool.
Remind me, we need to figure out what swag is. Okay. Fantastic. All right, rolling through them now. The Teach Me About the Great Lakes fact of the year. The coolest thing you learned on Teach Me About the Great Lakes. Now, this is a challenging category for me because, as you may know, listener, I am completely incompetent. And so actually recording takes up all of my mental ability to make sure that I haven't like deleted something or lost a question or broken my computer. So the dirty little secret of this podcast is that I barely pay any attention to what the guests are saying until I listen. Or I pay attention, but I forget to remember is how I say it. So, but I go back through my notes, and I do have one, but I would love to hear your, and this one is the audience nominee, actually, for me, and it's my nominee as well. But what do we got? Anybody got a cool fact from teaching about the Great Lakes?
Cats contain high levels of fire retardant.
Yeah, that is the one that I have as well, Hope, and that comes from all the PFAS. It's in like couches and we learned about this on Teach Me About the Great Lakes.
And it was flame retardants too, right?
Flame retardants. A lot of things in your house, and your cats, they snuggle and they lick stuff and they purr and inhale and all that, and they get really filled up with all of these forever chemicals. And we learned about this on Teach Me About the Great Lakes episode something with Marta Veneer.
Yeah, which that was a great episode if you haven't listened. She was so engaging and really good at talking about these things that are, to me, very difficult to wrap my head around sometimes. Mm-hmm. So,
and you can find that interview at teachmeaboutthegreatlakes.com/52, because that was episode 52 where she talked about all these forever chemicals.
So the person who nominated this included in their nomination sad but memorable. And for me personally, this one is sad a little bit too, because the kitty that was there, he has passed on. So my Megatron there. So anyway,
pour another one out for my homie.
Yeah, pour another one out. And but he would like hang out with me all the time while recording this, and it was hilarious. So I'm very happy to put my vote toward that one for fact of the year. Though I do appreciate that someone noted that it gets pretty rowdy at live recordings during conferences, because it absolutely does.
That is a very good runner-up. Yeah, if you haven't been to one of our live recordings, they're super fun. There's beer.
We're planning on doing another one at IAGLR 2023, probably, maybe.
We're going to have at least 3 next year, I think.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, yeah, wow. IAGLR 2023, the Great Lakes Sea Grant Network meeting, and then we've been invited.
What?
Invited to do a live podcast at the Contaminants of Emerging Concern conference.
Stuart looks so smug right now.
Champaign. I mean, we're invited by someone who works for Sea Grant.
Cool. So cats contain high levels of
unusually high levels of flame retardants. There it is. That is your Lakey winner. Oh, I forgot Katie O'Reilly. Hold on. Here she comes. Podcast of the year. So this one, we said Science Podcast of the Year, and I actually haven't listened to as many science. I'll be honest, the main podcasts I've been listening to this year, I really got into Judge John Hodgman. Have you heard this?
No.
Really, really good. You know John Hodgman, right? He was PC and the old Mac and PC commercials, and he used to have a regular thing on The Daily Show back when Jon Stewart was on there. Never mind. But people send in disputes, and he adjudicates disputes. And the reason they started the show was because, he's really good at sounding pompous and he wrote this book before any of this. He wrote this book called something like The Areas of My Expertise, which was just this really hilarious book in which it's complete BS. But it was really fun, and the audiobook was fun. But this podcast, people send in their really stupid disputes, and he adjudicates them, but he does it in a way that is so empathetic and thoughtful. And it's like a stunning podcast to listen to, which I really, really enjoy. And it really, make you laugh, make you think, probably not make you cry. And then the other podcast that I've really been enjoying is called Everything is Alive. And this one just boggles my mind. It's actually, what it is it's somebody interviews inanimate objects, like a lamppost, or a Roomba. And they have improvisational comedy people play the inanimate objects. And it also is actually really kind of touching in a weird way. Like, just go listen to the first episode where I think if they interview, I think it's a can of Coke. And I won't give, they're like 15, 20 minutes. I won't give away how it ends, but I gasped. And then anyway, just mind blowing. I absolutely love
that. That almost reminds me of the Teach Me About the Great Lakes episode where you interviewed the buoys.
Yeah. Well, we found out about this after. And if we could do a buoy, if the buoys were in that vibe, we would do that. But I think the amount of work, frankly, that goes into it.
I don't know what you're talking about. You talk directly to the buoys. All right. But what is our science podcast? I would like to bring up one that was nominated for multiple categories. And we spoke with some of the producers of this, The Water We Swim In, which is a podcast produced by our colleagues at Wisconsin Sea Grant. And it just tells a lot of interesting stories and stories that need to be heard, frankly. So Yep. So that's the one that I will vote for.
Fantastic. And
I am also going to vote for that one, and it is currently up for a Signal Award. So if you would like to vote for it, check it out and go give him a vote.
Yeah.
After you listen, of course.
Yeah, we'll no, don't listen. That's not true. Just go give him a vote.
No,
It's very good.
after you listen.
Right. After you listen, while you're listening. Why not both? It's really high quality work. And I talked about this. I'll be honest, I haven't finished the season because it's just I don't listen to podcasts as much since I don't commute every day. But it's really high quality work. This is from Bonnie Willison and the folks at Wisconsin Sea Grant, and they won the Lakey last year for Introduced. And I'll be honest, in terms of production, I think this is even better than Introduced. And I think the topic is equally or more important in a different way than invasive species. So every time I see Bonnie, I tell her that I am in awe, and I'm very happy for that to be this year's Lakey winner. One other one that I would like to mention is Lakes Chat by the Alliance for the Great Lakes. And what I like about that is they're talking about Great Lakes issues, and there are not a lot of podcasts. In fact, I think there are two that talk about Great Lakes issues broadly. And so I appreciate what they're doing. But no, I think that the easy choice here is the water we swim in. Okay, we're rounding about. We're rounding the corner near the final stretch. I was going to do a sports metaphor, but maybe that's not our deal.
Nope.
Yeah. But first, it's.
I was an athlete, but even though I was an athlete, I was not an athlete. So
yeah, fair enough. But first, we're going to have a wild card. We let people sort of do a wild card nomination, and we take some of those in. Some of these might become categories in the future. Some of them might just not. So who knows? But for the nominee, I think since somebody nominated Titus for every award, I think it's important. We should have the Great Lakes Titus of the Year as a Lakey. And the reason for this is that the work that Titus Seilheimer, Dr. Fish SG on Twitter, is amazing. He's as good at anyone at communicating like science, his passion for fish. He'll just send out videos of in the field. As far as I can tell, he just goes to beautiful places, takes videos, posts them on social media.
Yes, I'm sure that's all he does, Stuart.
That's as far as I can tell. He points people to, like important papers. He's a passionate advocate. I also like that, during the work from home period, early in COVID, I would be on conference calls with him. And if it was at noon Central Time, he would be on the call outside grilling and stuff like that. I was like, that's pretty admirable. Plus, he's the titular Dr. Fish, right? One of the two titular Dr. Fishes in Ask Dr. Fish. So I think all of that's really great, which is why I think Titus is the runner-up for Great Lakes Titus of the Year. The winner for Great Lakes Titus of the Year this year is Titus Winders, a junior at Southern Indiana University, one of the key members of their indoor track and field team. He is the school record holder for the 3,000 meters, a 6-time Great Lakes Valley Conference Indoor Track Athlete of the Week, and truly a deserving Titus of the Year. So our Great Lakes Titus of the Year goes to Titus Winder of Southern Indiana University, and the runner-up is the many-time nominated Titus Seilheimer.
Neither Hope nor I knew any of this, and we are both staring at Stuart like, how could you? How? All right,
dying.
so I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna move away from that. Another nomination was about Great Lakes art, and there were some really great art. Oh my goodness, Stuart. Sorry, Titus.
So
sorry. All right. So now we are going. Another nominee was Bugsy Sailor and the Year of the Sunrise. Go check this out, man. This person is going around mostly in Lake Superior and the Upper Peninsula, but also all sorts of different places. And the photos, they resolved to take a photo a day, and they are stunningly beautiful. And
yeah, it's really nice, and it's been a moment of serenity. I've started following that since I saw the nomination, and it's really nice, and it's a nice way to start. And the other thing is that I don't know how long this will last. It's been a few years already, but it is data in its own way too.
It
right?
absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yep, and people can. Yes, I won't go off on data either.
I agree. Well, we will have a wild card Lakey then for the Great Lakes Art of the Year. Okay, now these next two are in some ways the big ones, in some ways not, right? And so these are always hard for us because, first of all the Sea Grant nominations are done by our friends and colleagues, and also it's really hard to compare like a TikTok account to like the Center for Great Lakes Literacy, and like what they're going for, or Yeah, and so that's that you're the Great Lakes Aquaculture Collaborative to like beach ambassadors. And so we always really struggle with what to do here, and there's so many great things. And so we're going to start with the Great Lakes Science Communication product of the year. And so, do you have a nominee that you would like to point out?
One of the nominees was the Glancis Managing Great Lakes Invaders animated video series that was created by Michigan Sea Grant. This is a really cool little kit kind of informational videos that are pretty accessible and things like that. So I thought that was a cool nominee.
Yeah, and videos are becoming more and more important now that people have, all this information overload all the time. So you really have to grab their attention. And so I liked the nomination, The Erie Situation, which is a documentary film by Great Lakes Outreach Media. It helps people around the Great Lakes understand kind of Lake Erie's harmful algal blooms, what's at stake, how they affect boating and swimming and all that other stuff, and then also what possible solutions there could be. And so I think it's a really good documentary about an important aspect of Lake Erie that affects lots of people.
Right. And oops, I forgot one of the nominees I wanted to mention too was there's coloring sheets.
Yep. This was going to be my mention. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So and I again apologize for the name, but Taja Tucker has made these really cool coloring sheets and like paper craft things about everything from round goby, no hot dog bum. You can probably make your own quagga mussel and things like this. These are really neat, just sort of physical things you can touch, right, and print out and that sort of stuff. And so it's a great way to interact with these different species and things you can do with your whole family and stuff like that. And so I think that's really great too.
Right. And I'm pretty sure I saw some at the Joint Aquatic Sciences meeting in the booth that was next to our Sea Grant booth. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Hope saw me sort of look
did.
over.
I tried to get some and all of them were taken.
Exactly. Because they're
slow.
really cool.
Too slow.
They were really, really cool. But as Stuart mentioned, I mean, it's really hard to compare.
Yeah, like how do you compare a coloring sheet to a documentary?
Yeah.
It's not even apples. It's apples.
It's like a shoe and
a boat.
Yeah. There you go.
And an orange.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and take out the Erie Situation because they have already won a lot of different awards.
They don't need our help.
And so they don't need a Lakey.
We don't need to puff them up. You know what? I think I'll be honest, and this is always the rub here, right? And this is why we do this, because we show that it's the impossibility of it. But I think that our show is, as we often say, fundamentally goofy. And so as that, we should celebrate the fundamental silliness, or not silliness, but the lightheartedness of coloring sheets about quagga mussels and or paper crafts about quagga mussels and round gobies.
They're really cool.
And they are really cool. You should check them out and go print them. It's not like, just go do it. So, I think that is going to be our Lakey winner. Does that work for you?
Yes, it absolutely does.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And now the moment we have all been waiting for, the Great Lakes Communications or Outreach Program of the Year. This is different from the communications product, and it's something that's kind of ongoing as opposed to a one-off. It's the idea. Although every year I look at the nominations and realize maybe that's not that clear, which is fine. The one I would like to call out here is from our friends at Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, called Get Into Your Sanctuary. And so this is they have students get into a glass-bottom boat in Lake Michigan out of Alpena, and just hundreds of school-aged children into Shipwreck Alley. They learn about the Great Lakes firsthand. And I love that. I had a formative experience at Silver Springs, Florida in glass-bottom boats. And so this one really strikes home with me. It gives people a chance to get out on the Great Lakes. And so I love it for that reason.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And I mean, we have our non-animal of the year was a vessel that was taking people out, right? So that seemed like a pretty cool thing.
I really like the nomination of the Baby Lake Sturgeon release events. I have seen Carolyn post on social media about these because she goes with her kids and it looks amazing.
Yeah, you get to hold a little dinosaur in your hand.
That's true. No, it's true. Much like with Monty and Rose and the baby plovers, you don't get to hold them, but little dinosaurs.
Right. And you're also, contributing to the restoration of extraordinarily important species that for some reason was not nominated for Animal of the Year.
Yeah, well, it tells you something about how people feel about sturgeon.
Warg.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, we got Titus doing that. Let's see.
Wah, wah, wah.
There's Lakey runner-up Titus Seilharmer going womp, 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 womp.
All right, so my nominee came up a couple of different times, and it's really an incredible program. It's the Student Watershed Watch. in Northwest Ohio. It says testing the water since 1989. So students get to go out and do sampling. So, we talked about the Erie situation a minute ago. Northwest Ohio is the land where everything happens that then influences what's happening in the western basin of Lake Erie. And so getting students out, helping them do all of this information, they're giving presentations, and it seems like a fantastic, fantastic program.
Okay, so how do we figure this out? We got 3 or 4 really good nominees and no way to compare them fairly. What should we do?
I don't know. So I think one of the things that I thought was really cool about the watershed program is one of the nominees was my students and I participated in it for the first time this year. So it's 2022. It's been happening since 1989, and it's still bringing on new people who learn about the issues that we all care about. So,
and they were so excited about it that they nominated it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For the baby sturgeon events, did they is there a specific group that put those on, or is it done by multiple groups throughout?
Well, when a mommy and daddy sturgeon,
it's a big coalition of individuals. So Michigan Sea Grant is really involved, but there's the Saginaw Bay Watershed Initiative, I think, and there's a whole bunch of partners all around. They partner with local nature centers and things like that, down in Frankenmuth. If you've ever been there, it's a very weird place, but they do release events. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it sounds like we have 2 runners up, but I think we should announce the Lakey winner via song. Because this ties into something we did recently with the importance of certain areas over others. And so I think we will have a couple of wonderful runners-up, including our good friends at Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary and their Get Into Your Sanctuary programming, which I want to take my kids to. And, of course, the sturgeon releases. But for the winner, let's just everybody step right up.
Step right up, Wheel of Erie. 1 play for 3 and 2 for 5. Right here, take a spin.
It is time for the Wheel of Erie. What it will land on is a big mystery. So many issues with Lake Erie. Which of them will we discuss on Teach Me About the Great Lakes? That's right, the Student Watershed Watch in Northwest Ohio is the Lakey winner for Outreach Program of the Year. The way that they work with students is just magnificent. They do science, they do education, they work on analyzing data, they have a summit. What a fantastic program and a truly worthy Lakey winner. And that is going to wrap it up for the 2022 Lakies. This is our last episode of the year, probably. And I want to thank you all for listening. This is a silly thing, and this is now our 3rd year. Did we just complete our 3rd year? We completed our 3rd year of the show, right?
Woo!
Yeah, and in fact, I remember the very first episode, we had Sarah on, and it was Hope and I co-hosting, and Carolyn was like a guest.
Like a sneaky guest.
Sneaky guest, yeah.
I like your sneaky voice.
Like a sneaky guest. I'm Carolyn Foley. Yeah,
Can I bring something up, though, before we wrap it all up? So something I thought was really, really cool about the Great Lakes Lakies nominees is that they came from all of the Great Lakes. And that's, I don't know, I think that's pretty
That's
neat.
impressive,
Yeah.
I completely agree. But anyway, that's going to do it for this year. So I will give you so thank you everybody for listening. We've got even more stuff planned for next year. The stupidity rolls on, and we couldn't be happier than for that to happen. So as
Thank you
always,
to our guests.
Thank you to our guests. Yes, we had, we had about 25 guests this year, just doing amazing work. And that's the reason that we're here, that and to screw around with our friends at work. And so that's all good. Teach Me About the Great Lakes is brought to you by the fine people at Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, and we encourage you to check out the great work that we do at iiseagrant.org and ILIN Sea Grant on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media. Teach Me About the Great Lakes is produced by Hope Charter's Megan Gunn and Irene Miles. Ethan Chitty is our associate producer, and Fixer, our senior producer, is Carolyn Foley. Our super fun podcast artwork is by Joel Davenport. Thank you, Joel. And the show is edited by the awesome Quinn Rose. Thank you, Quinn. Oh my goodness, I cannot imagine how much you hate us right now. Go check out Quinn's work at aspiringrobot.com. Hire Quinn to do your podcast. If you have a question or comment about the show, send us an email, teachmeabouttthegreatlakes@gmail.com, or leave a message in our hotline at 765-496-IISG. You can also follow the show on Twitter, again, while it lasts, at Teach Great Lakes. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. It really is a pleasure and an honor and a joy and fun and awesome and entertaining, at least to us. And keep grading those lakes. dee 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 dee